Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Films and Stuff podcast. I'm Ethan, joined as always by the MVP, most valuable Pete. Good morning, Pete.
Morning, buddy. How are you?
Everything is good. Everything is great. We are Saturday morning. We know what that means. It means it's time for the weekly stream or skip segment. As always, I introduce it. I turn it over to you, and you explain or just remind our listeners, old and new alike, what is the rules of stream or skip?
All right. So Ethan and I have prepared random lists of TV shows for each other to watch. Every week we randomly assign one of those shows to watch. We watch 2 episodes if it's a series or 30 minutes if it's a feature-length program. And on that basis, we determine if that show is worthy of being streamed or skipped.
All right. So I will turn it over to you. What were you assigned this week by me on Stream or Skip?
All right. So I had a show on Paramount Plus called Curfew. Spoiler alert. Skip this at all costs.
Ouch.
Now, as listeners will have heard, our rules are you have to watch 30 minutes if it's a feature-length program, 2 episodes if it's a series. This is the first time in our 3-year history of Stream or Skip.
300 episodes, 350 almost. Yeah.
I could not get through the second episode.
Really?
I saw the first. I was already not great with it. I saw halfway through the second and I was like, all right, I'm out. I can't do this. I can't do this anymore.
What makes it, I mean, it's a recent show. It's 2024. What makes it so unappealing to you?
All right. So let me tell you what the show is about. And then we can kind of get into why. And there's no way around it. I think this could be seen as controversial. The premise of the show is that all men in the UK are under home curfew from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. in the entire country for women's safety. So a new law has been passed relatively recently, and all men have to wear an ankle bracelet or ankle monitor, similar to what criminals have to wear.
Yeah, like Annie Prohl.
And one of the first statements that, like they do this thing, like they do the voiceover of like newscasts as to what's going on.
Right.
And one of the questions was, how do we protect women? And I was just like, so your idea of doing this is to basically lock away men at home from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Fine. What about from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.? Like, they're still out and about. You're not neutering these people. Like, it's the stupidest premise. Like, anyway, look.
There's no date night. All the women have to go like running over to the man's house. That's awkward.
So we'll get into that, right? So, like the opening scene is like a bunch of women going out clubbing and partying and drinking.
And there's no men.
And there's no men anywhere. You see one of the women get really drunk, getting home, and a really creepy looking bald guy wearing nothing but a bathrobe appears out of nowhere, and it looks like he's going to sexually assault her. And then he gets caught by the police like this. You remember that Tom Cruise movie where they could pre-see all the cars?
Yeah. Yeah, the pre-crime unit.
Pre-cogs unit, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like 3 police cars come hovering in out of nowhere, and the guy gets arrested before anything can happen. And the women police officers are like, another man taken down because down with the patriarchy and all that bullshit.
But wait a second. That was Minority Report with Tom Cruise. And so that means like no man, I don't know. You're giving this a bad rating. I love it already. That means no man can have like any type of job. Like they can't be a paramedic, they can't be a doctor, they can't be a delivery driver.
So that's it. So this detective is a woman, and she's obviously assigned the night shift, And she gets assigned a male guy who apparently gets a special waiver that he can actually be out and about after 7 p.m. And she's shocked.
I love it. Women get all the crap jobs. They've got to do like all the deliveries, all the stocking, all the driving, all the everything overnight. Oh, that's horrible. Unintended consequences.
So, so you have this woman detective, and she's clearly very much an anti-man person, like she's this uber feminist who's just like, all men are disgusting and they're all criminals, and give them the opportunity and they will rape you and go after you. And you're just like, okay, anyway. So in that first episode, there's a murder of a woman. She's found dead, and it looks like a very violent attack, like with a blunt weapon. And she's left in front of the Women's Safety Center. And so she's like, well, only a man could have done this. And the coroner, and then the guy who's with her is like this rookie detective boy is just like, yeah, but ma'am, this was like the time of death is between 10 p.m. and midnight, right in the middle of the curfew. The system would have flagged him. It's obviously not a man. It has to be a woman, right? And she's like,
lock up the women as well.
And then she's just like, no, it's got to be a man. He's got to have found a way around the system and blah, blah, blah. And then you find out that you do a little bit of flashback. The woman who was murdered, she had just killed a man with a taser 2 weeks ago because all women are on edge and all women are allowed to have tasers in the UK now. And so she thinks that, and she works at the center that tags the men with the ankle bracelets.
This is all in the first episode?
This is all in the first and the second episode. And look, it's kind of weird because now they're kind of showing like all these women are like in these lesbian relationships. It's just like this really odd, highly weird dystopian future where the power dynamics that is traditionally thought of, right? And now it's kind of flipped on its head. That in itself, not bad. It's an interesting take. But this, I think, seems to go a little bit too far, and it's become like a misandric show in the sense that all men are shown as like these creepy, bald guys who look like they're foaming at the mouth at the sight of a woman, who are like super aggressive and super angry all the time. And you're just like, yeah, but that can't be all the men, right? And what about young boys? You don't see a single young boy in the show. Like, what about babies? What about, what is going on here? What is this the state of the UK? Like, if somebody visits to the UK and they're a man, do they have to get tagged? Like, they don't.
Oh, yeah.
They don't.
So there's no flights. There's no flights. Oh, man. It's actually so cool, though. We could come up. This is so down our alley. Like, we could come up with a whole list of like stuff that's wrong with this. Like, okay, so that means there's no flights that could land later than like 7 p.m. and like no flights can leave earlier than like 10 a.m., right? Like, just think of all the unintended consequences. It's amazing.
No more pilots that are men after 7 p.m.
Yes.
No more plumbers or late night electricians. And again, I'm very much generalizing, but the stereotype is plumbers typically happen to be men. Electricians typically happen to be men. Manual labor, typically men. Garbage men don't come after 8 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. So you're telling me that like at 6 o'clock in the morning, you have a whole fleet of like sewage workers, garbage workers, sanitary workers who are all women now? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I love it.
They don't really clarify all of these questions, and I'm not saying everyone's going to have a question like this, but nerds like you and I are. Like, we're going to instantly attack the system, right? Because that's what we do for all shows. Right. And when you have a premise like this, which theoretically could be interesting, you and I go one step further and we start thinking, okay, well, how do we justify this? How do we make this work? This doesn't do any of that.
I have to say, I guess I get it that you dislike the show. I love that the premise is so absurd. I feel like you're taking it personally, and I'm like having fun with it. Like, just imagine all the jobs that you don't have to take because like the crappy times.
This is
no night
my
classes.
Point is, like, on one hand, there's a lot of wasted potential that you and I, and again, I see the greatest irony that you and I, two men, would be required to fix this premise about all women being in power. I'm not saying that. But the point is that you and I would sit down and think it through. We've done this. How many times have you and I sat down at dinner and thought up a random, stupid scenario, but actually thought it through from start to end? This is another one of those.
In fact, I would say our friendship is based more on hypothetical premises that you and I have like gone down rabbit holes on than anything else, right? Like, we love a good rabbit hole.
100%. And I'll tell you one of the things. This is why shows like For All Mankind kind of works, because they went through all of it, right? Because this is sci-fi-esque, right? This is not sci-fi in the traditional sci-fi sense. Yeah. But those kinds of shows, Silo, For All Mankind, they kind of walk you through all the different aspects of it. The authors thought about it. I don't think the writer of this show really thought more than an inch deep of this premise. The premise isn't well thought out. It's highly superficial. I was offended by the depiction of men in this show. It was so, like, the one male detective who gets the pass to work past 7 p.m. He's like this meek, boyish, almost like asexual being who's just like, oh, well, of course he could. He's not a threat to anyone. Like, he doesn't look like he could punch himself out of a wet paper bag. Of course he should be given the grant.
Oh my gosh, this show is the greatest gift. Let me ask you a question, because I think this is symptomatic of something else. I don't know if this is true or not, but have you ever heard of the Cobra effect? And I don't mean G.I. Joe, because I know that's where you're going.
I feel like I have. I might not be able to place it, but it sounds familiar.
The Cobra effect is like the Streisand effect, like one of those things that explains like these overarching principles. Generally, when a government like says, oh, there's a problem, well, here's an easy way to fix it. And then they put down what they think is an easy fix. And then they're surprised when humanity like circumvents it.
Oh,
but I understood the...
Yeah, is this named after what they did in India with the snakes?
Yes. I'll explain it. You tell me if this is right. But this is what I heard or somewhere, that apparently there were too many like snakes or cobras in India.
Yes.
And this is when the colonial British government was ruling India. So they said, well, look, there's an easy way to get rid of all the snakes. We'll just pay people to kill snakes, and when they kill a snake, we'll give them like a small stipend. Problem solved. And actually what happened was, instead of reducing the number of cobras, it increased the cobras, because people started to realize that they could make a living breeding and then killing their own cobras.
Exactly.
So then the government's like, oh man, we're so stupid. We've actually created more cobras. So like, well, we've got an easy fix. We'll just stop paying people. So when they stopped paying people, all the people who were breeding cobras just turned them loose, and then they had like 4 times as many cobras, right? And that sounds exactly like what's happened here. They're like, okay, easy fix for violence against women. And we're not being political about it. It's a show. They're like, okay, fine. Let's just stop men from going out at night. Problem solved. Oh, wait a second. Who's supposed to be air traffic controllers? Who's supposed to drive the ferry? Who's supposed to drive the taxi? Now we've got to change all the British Airlines flights, because if you're going to leave for the airport at 7:01, that means the earliest flight is 10 o'clock and bloody, 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 blah. And then they're like, oh man, we've created more problems than we solved, right? Yeah. I love this. It's almost a satire.
That would have been a better show, where they're just kind of like, and you could call this Cobra Curfew, right? And you're just like, where you're actually figuring it out. That would have been way better. But this, so
Cobra Curfew.
It riled me up in all the wrong ways. Like, some shows rile you up, but it riles you up because you're just like, yes, I see the premise.
This is a blessing.
I want to do this.
This is a blessing.
This riled me up in all the wrong ways.
You've just come up with a whole new show, Cobra Curfew. It sounds like such a good show. Cobra Curfew. It has such a good ring to it.
Oh my God.
We just created that out of this. I'm so happy.
Look, this is a super skip. The premise is not well thought out. With all due respect, again, is some of the worst acting I've seen. Like that lead female detective. I'm sure you're a fantastic person. I'm sure you're a lovely person. I do not hold this against me, but this show has done you a disservice on your IMDb.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, it's not good. I did not enjoy it. Just don't waste your time. If you want to apply to become a writer on Cobra Curfew, watch this show, apply, and what we're going to do is Ethan and I, we're going to write our own pilot.
I love that we created a show called Cobra Curfew. You're foaming. You're like literally foaming at how unhappy you are at the show. And I'm having the best morning in a long time listening to you create Cobra Curfew out of nothing. This is an amazing development.
But you know what? This is what happens when you and I have sat down to have our normal spicy curries together.
Yes.
And we end up coming up with a premise.
Absolutely. Okay. Tune in for Cobra Curfew.
Coming soon to a show.
Coming soon. All right. So Curfew is a flat out skip, but it's good for a laugh. Appreciate it. Okay. Let's get down to business here. Okay.
Yeah.
I was assigned something that I was really excited by. It was called The Assassin.
Yeah.
Not very original, but it was on Amazon Prime. And with a title like that, how could I not be a little bit excited about it? But what Amazon Prime giveth, Amazon Prime taketh away. And for whatever reason, The Assassin, not available in my territory. Reassigning myself Beef Season 2 on Netflix.
Let me just tell our listeners, so we're doing something different. Beef was actually assigned to me Season 1 2 years ago on Streamer Skip.
Yeah, 2023.
And we don't normally come back to shows again. However, we made an exception for Beef because this is, like White Lotus, a new season that's not related to the first season.
Yeah, that's a very good point, which is very much like White Lotus. And if anyone's watched White Lotus, I think we reviewed it more than once.
Yes.
Or at least I watched all 3 seasons. Did you watch all 3 seasons?
I got stuck in the second season. I think that was in Italy, right?
Yeah. I love White Lotus. And I think that White Lotus, if it didn't define this, or if it didn't make this genre, it certainly popularized it, which is that it basically has 3 entirely different seasons, casts, locations, everything. It could be named 3 different shows because there's nothing consistent, but for 1 or 2 very minor characters that flow through 2 seasons and 3 seasons.
Right.
Not main characters, minor characters that just by coincidence kind of tie together. Beef Season 2. So Beef Season 1, should we just kind of recap what Beef Season 1 was about? So Beef Season 1 was Stephen Yeun, Ali Wong. I love Ali Wong. And they basically have a beef in Los Angeles. They have a road rage incident, and it leads to a beef or a dispute or this long running kind of tit for tat, between those two. And it brings in, their family members and so many other other parties, right? There's so many commentaries on life, I think, in those episodes in terms of who's at fault and what's reasonable and what's not reasonable and what would you do and can you see it from their perspective and, well, they should have done this or that was unnecessary and blah, right? It's just a very great conversation starter, I think, in all ways. Season 2 came out, and I wasn't even expecting Season 2. I kind of knew there was going to be a Season 2, but it wasn't on my radar, and I didn't have any expectations. So when I saw it, I started it, and it's an entirely new cast. Although there may also, like White Lotus, be some threads of continuity. I haven't found them yet, but maybe there will be. Oscar Isaac and Carey Mulligan are right now the two leads, I think we can say. The first episode is a great example of how to draw an audience in immediately. You know, we've seen this time and time again that shows either start badly and we just, like, for example, Curfew, it starts badly and then you just give up on it. Or it's one of those shows where you're like, well, start slow, but stick with it. You know, like, how many times have you said that to me? And you and I have had this age-old, it's not even a debate, it's just a point-counterpoint, which is, time is so valuable. Why are we wasting time on 2 episodes to finally get interesting, you know?
Yeah.
I thought that Beef was a great example of a show that just grabs you from the beginning. It's not like something so obvious, like you don't need like this really steamy sex scene. You don't need this really crazy like heist scene. You just need to have really thoughtful character introductions and get people to be like invested in who these people are, right?
Yeah.
I thought that Beef did that from the get-go in such a subtle way that I was like, oh, I feel like I know these people, like, or I want to get to know them, or this is really interesting. Let's see where this heads. I thought the first season, the first episode drew me in. I have to say, I'm all in on season 2 of Beef. And I would say if I had to give it a rating now, I would say it's probably going to be a must subscribe, just like season 1 was.
When I saw Beef, regular listeners will remember I was a captive audience member because I downloaded it on my iPad and I was on a flight. And I didn't have a choice but to finish it because there was no in-flight entertainment. Beef season 1 was deeply uncomfortable. If it wasn't for the fact that I was on a flight, I actually am not sure if I would have finished it. Like, I think I might have called it a mooch or maybe even a skip.
Whoa.
But because I was on this flight and I was forced to watch all 8 or 10 episodes, by that time I hit episode 6, I was like, oh, it was like a rubbernecking a car crash. You know, you couldn't stop watching. You're just like, you see these two people who are clearly going through some kind of mental problem.
Yeah.
And they were clearly fighting with each other, but not for really good reasons. I mean, the escalation was so deeply uncomfortable because you're just like, it's crazy how a small boulder a small pebble basically snowballed into something so massive. And I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to see something very similar to that in this, which is, for people who haven't seen Beef season 1, I think you could probably watch season 2 without season 1. I'm guessing. But I would highly recommend you push through the discomfort, right? And in the first episode, we see a fight between the husband and wife, and it is not a comfortable fight to watch, right?
Oscar Isaac
and Carey Mulligan really sell it. Sell it strong enough where you're just like, I'm not sure I'm going to be comfortable watching 8 episodes of this, but I think you're going to love this series by the end.
So I love that Oscar Isaac is in this. I love Carey Mulligan, man. Like, talk about underrated actresses.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
You know, like, if you would have asked me before this, like, list 100 actresses. Okay, I don't think I could have done that, but if I would have, I definitely would not have come up with Carey Mulligan. And then, like, when I saw her, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's amazing. You know, like, I've seen her in so many good things. Like, never had a bad performance. Right?
Yeah.
Anyway. So the first 2 episodes of Beef are out. I've only watched the first one. I think you did as well, right?
Yeah, I thought the whole series the whole series is out. They dropped the whole thing.
Oh, did it drop? Okay. Super. Pete, before we leave, can you remind everyone of our social media and YouTube cred so that we can get our bells rung, thumbs up, comments, so on and so forth?
All right, everybody, please like this video, leave a comment below, subscribe to our channel, and do not forget to hit that notification bell so that you know when the next episode of the Films and Stuff podcast drops for you.
Pete, appreciate your time, and thank you for coming up with the eternally amazing Cobra Curfew. Listeners, thank you for tuning in, and I think this is why you love us, is that we often take lemons, we squeeze and squeeze and squeeze, and out comes lemonade in the form of Cobra Curfew. So thanks, everyone, and we shall see you next week, next episode of the Films and Stuff podcast.
Thanks, Ethan. Thanks, everyone.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.